Welcome to SIAWOL. I had this idea about launching a podcast about sci-fi. And there's any number of podcasts and content that deal with science fiction in some way. I wanted a worldwide focus. Why do I care about worldwide sci-fi? It came about, it was several years back. I had this thought, what if I started creating an intentional movie list around all these films that you'll be talking to people and something will come up and you'll think to yourself, or even say it out loud, I've never watched that film. I'm interested in watching that film. Never gotten to it. And then as soon as the conversation continues, you forget about that. It's gone out of your head. And then maybe it comes up months or years later when you have that thought again. And you might go through that cycle repeatedly for a very long time. So I had that thought of, I've got a note app on my phone. It's not that hard to just start making the list of stuff that I want to get to. And I had all kinds of movies on that list. For my own fun, I decided to watch them by category. So all of the anime related films I ended up watching close to each other. After watching Casablanca, I actually ended up having a separate little mini binge of all of his films I could get my hands on. I had a Kurosawa kick after watching Seven Samurai. The list was a really fun thing to see new ideas, and then if something piqued my interest, I would just keep at it. And so part of the list ended up being quite a few sci-fi films. I grew up on Star Trek with my mom. And that was a massive thing for me growing up, watching especially Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, a little bit of original series and Voyager. But I hadn't really watched a lot of really standard sci-fi films. Whether it was the Terminator films, the Alien franchise, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I know, it's a big one. It's a very, very big deal. Even things like any of the Matrix films. After focusing so much on US sci-fi, it occurred to me to look further afield. We're not the only film industry. At this point, I don't even think we're the biggest one anymore. There's so many places in the world making films. And they haven't ignored sci-fi by any stretch. So I ended up coming across some of the biggest hits. If you start looking into Russian sci-fi, for instance, you're definitely going to come across Stalker and Solaris. I ended up deep diving into Indian sci-fi, watched a sequel without knowing it was a sequel, ended up being pretty fun actually in that incorrect order. So much European sci-fi in many different countries. France has quite a few animated sci-fi films, actually. The French film Je t'aime actually was the basis for 12 Monkeys later here. Quite a few US sci-fi actually draw from either science fiction books that came from other places or initially films that started somewhere and someone had the idea to do a US adaptation. So the deep dive kept going and it kept going. And it was a lot of fun, honestly. I super enjoyed looking for all of these possibilities. At the same time, there's a limited amount of time that you even have outside of the rest of what your life has. Obviously, full-time job. I had gotten involved in partner dancing and helping to run a festival for that. And that takes a lot of time. Taking my own dance classes. I had games with friends. We would play tabletop games and get together at least once a week. You know, your life is filled with so many aspects. And so when you find something new that really grabs you, it's hard to see how much you can devote to that. And then COVID happened. Suddenly, all of these things that were taking my time outside of work were gone. Nobody could meet to do board games. Nobody could get together for dance. Any of the socials, any of the classes, all of that was cut out for all of our safety. And suddenly I had all of this free time. It was on the back burner to think of when I could fit it in to actually research and give a serious, concerted effort to finding sci-fi from around the globe. All kinds of countries, all kinds of time periods. And of course, there wasn't time until there was. I spent solidly the first 2 years of the pandemic doing that deep dive. I looked through so many different countries' databases that they had online. Interesting to find out the variety of databases that are even out there. Doing all of this research, I started compiling all of it into my own personal database, just so that I wouldn't lose track of what I had found out and the details involved. And the database kept growing, and I started to check off countries. So I started getting requests for movie recommendations, and thanks to me being so thorough as I feel capable of being, I could look up if someone wanted to find out if there was a movie about cloning somewhere in the Philippines. Had I come across that yet? If so, it's usually in my database at this point. And I still am not fully done with this. I mean, there's no such thing as being done, because every year we get more sci-fi. And what a treat to really never run out if we don't have to. But there is no end to researching, because the stream of sci-fi will never stop. Still, as I started to have these talks and have people asking about what's actually out there, I wanted to start taking a really good look at how I might share that with a bigger audience. And so I'm setting up a podcast. Some fun background about the name of the podcast, SIAWOL. SIAWOL. It actually comes from a sci-fi book that I read and absolutely got invested in. It was a gripping book for me. The book is Fallen Angels, actually written by a trio of authors: Michael Flynn, Larry Niven, and Jerry Purnell. In the book, for context, there is an ice age which is set into the world, and societally it has been a massive turn away from technology and science in general. It is blamed for the current crisis, and anyone who is using it, they end up ostracized, they lose their jobs, their family turns them away, they are cut off, and it is deeply problematic, of course. So liking science fiction and fantasy and things that encourage that love of imagination and future ideas and hopes is equally as forbidden. Anyone who has any materials have to keep them hidden. They have underground meetings that these meetings allow them to meet in secret and see the people who share and appreciate the things that they love and can't have in the broader world that they live in. And one of the ways that they identify someone who thinks the way they do, they would have these sort of call signs. And so one of them was SIAWOL, and it stood for Fandom is a Way of Life. And if someone recognized it, then you knew they shared that with you and they were safe to meet with and have that with. I really loved that. And so for me, SIAWOL, it would be sci-fi is a way of life. Now, I'm not saying that sci-fi is the end-all be-all. I have other interests. This is not the only thing that captures me as a person. I have loved sci-fi from a very early age. Sci-fi is such a vast world, really, unto itself. And I love the idea of sharing what I'm seeing, sharing what I'm coming across, giving other people the ability to access movies that they don't know exist. And if that means that I meet people who are watching these and able to talk about them and have these weird conversations where you deep dive and explore what an idea can bring, that would make it all worth it. I'm still going to do research when I can. I've done, insofar as I'm able to, I've done most of the countries in the world at this point, minus the very, very big ones, because that is an undertaking that's massive. But it's not going to stop me from watching what interests me, and we'll see about what I can share with all of you. So here's the intro of this podcast. I'm ready to explore, and I'm ready to bring that exploration to you. Talk to you soon.